Okay, so today we are in a fourth session, and so we have just a file here named session4.javascript. Yeah, so today's session, we intend to cover strings. We intend to cover arrays. And then we intend to cover what we call objects. Yeah, now just as a recap of what we've been doing in our last, the immediate last session, we looked at loops, or what we call iterations. We look at arithmetic operations. We also, this is what we discussed last in our last meetup: arithmetic operations, comparisons, loops. So today we are focusing on objects, arrays, and strings. And last time we checked that we looked at increment operators, decrement operators, compound operators, multiplication, subtractions, additions. We also looked at some of the mathematical methods like the power, the square root, cube root, random, ceiling, the floor, and the round. Yeah, and on the loops, we looked at for loops. Yeah, we looked at for loops. Then we also looked at for of. We looked at the while loop. We also looked at the do while loop. We also looked at some of the comparisons like what we have here. And I remember us saying that we really need to go and check onto these such comparisons because these are very important, very, very important when it comes to your understanding of JavaScript. For example, what do you get when you do a true plus 1? What do you get when you get a false plus 5? Undefined plus 1, false plus bar as a string, true plus 1, null. What do you get if you compare an empty string to a 0? And a 0 as a string to a 0 as a number? What do you get if you compare a false to a 0, a false to a 0 as a string? Yeah, I hope you went ahead and did your research and you have some knowledge on why it's happening that way. So today we are looking on strings, and on strings we are going to look about things. For example, let's start with the strings, the first thing. So under strings, we want to look at first, declaration of strings. We are going to look at what we call concatenation of strings. Let me just disable my copilot real quick. Oh, shit, I don't want this live server. Anyways, let's disable completions. Great. So we're going to check on concatenations of strings. We want to look at reversing of strings. I want to look at setting a character at an index. At an index, I want us to look at what we call escaping quotes. Escaping quotes in strings. We want to look at trimming strings. Something else we want to look at is how to split a string into an array. Split a string into an array. Then we're going to look at detecting a string. And lastly, or finding like substrings. Actually, it's not the last thing. We want to look at there something like slice. We also want to look at what we call finding a string. And lastly, we are going to replace and repeat a string. Okay, last one. We're going to look at uppercase and lowercase. Uppercase and lowercase conversion of strings. Yes. Yeah. So Again, on arrays, let's go to arrays real quick. Arrays, we're going to look at what we call, let me show you that. What is an array? What's an array? Then we have array methods. Array methods include things such as the length, we have push, we have what we call pop, we have what we call shift, we have unshift, we have like sorting of an array, then we have like reversing an array. Then also somehow still under arrays, we can look on how to use the spread operator in array. Yeah, and then we can also look on how to destructure an array. Moving forward, we're going to look onto objects. Under objects, we want to, if you understand array, to understand adding to an object, accepting an entry in object, Hi guys, am I audible?
Yes, now you're back. I think we just lost you for a minute.
Okay, thank you. So let's continue from where we were. So we're going to look on how to accessing an entry in objects. What else? We can have declaration of objects. Apart from declarations, we're going to see how to access them. And of course, under accessing, we can use the dot notation. And then we're going to use what we call the bracket method. And why are we going to use the bracket method? Yeah, so moving forward, we are going to look on what we call object.keys. Object keys. We're going to look at object values. We are going to look at what we call object entries. And then finally, we are going to look on how to destructure an object. Yeah, so basically, this is what we have for the night. And I hope it's going to be a very, very impactful session tonight. So let's start with first things first, strings. So strings is very easy. So let's say we have something like let name equals to Omolo. Or we can have something like name is reserved in JavaScript. So let me say identity. ID equals to Omolo. So then let ID2 equals to Leslie. So in JavaScript, how do you declare a string? How do you declare strings? Very simple. You simply enclose them in what we call these quotation marks. You can either use a double quotation mark or a single quotation mark, and that is a string. So a string is just characters in JavaScript, enclosed in between quotation marks. For example, if I come here and say let equals to 6, that's not a number, that's a string. Okay. If I come and say let bool equals to true, that's not a boolean, that's a string, because I'm enclosing it in quotes. So that's how you can actually declare a string in JavaScript. That is to the declaration of JavaScript in sexy JavaScript. Basically having characters enclosed in between quotation marks, either single or double. Either can work. But when you choose to use quotes, double quotes, correct. Single quotes, fantastic. There will be no problem. So assuming that like I've said, bool equal to true, I've said this should be a string. And how do we confirm that? How do we check for the instance of a string? How do we do that? We know very well we have a console of log that we use to print our results on the console. And what we all know up to this point is that to run our JavaScript file, we use Node. Then because we are watching it, because we don't want to come back again and again, trying to stop the server and run it again, we're going to watch for all the changes in our JavaScript of our file and run it again. So you simply tell it Node and then watch. So what do we want to run and what are we watching? We want to watch this file here called session4.js. So I will come here and just type session4.js. So this one is going to run my code here. And if I make any change, I don't have to come back to the terminal to stop it and run it again. So once I am here with the terminal, just press enter. So it's in the watch mode, okay? So if I have any changes, for example, I come here and say we have 6, it will always restart and run automatically. So let's check. First of all, I want to show you how to print that value of any string variable. Let's use a log, console.log of ID. With that, we get the name Omolo printed down here. If you want to print ID2, we get Leslie down there. And now we have 66, which in normal circumstance, 66 is a number. But since it's enclosed in between quotation marks, it's no longer a number, but what? But a string. So how do we confirm that? We can use the type of class in JavaScript to tell us to which class that 66 belongs to. So how do we do that? We can just log it down here and say we want to find the type of 6. And then in our console, what do we get? A string. So it means this is not what we call, how do you call it? It's no longer what we call a number, but it's now a string because we've actually enclosed it in quotation marks. If we also come to true under normal circumstance, that should be a boolean, right? But since it is enclosed in between quotation marks, it's no longer a boolean, but now what we call a string. So to confirm that, we do the same thing here, just copy this line and paste it down here. And instead of 6 again, we want to have bool there. And you see we have a string. It is opposed to when I have something like let bool1 equals to true. And if I come and just find the type of bool1, let's see what we get from that point. What do we get? We get boolean, right? So you see that irrespective of the reserved word or data type like a boolean or a number, as long as you have strings and the quotation marks enclosing it, it no longer it ceases to become what it is to now a string. Now that is the point that you should understand here. It ceases to become, for example, a boolean here, and it becomes now a string with the value of true. Let's work under some circumstance again. Let's say let string equals to that. That is very valid. I can come here and just also find like the type of, the type of what we call string. And what do we get? It's a string. So even an empty, if you don't have anything inside here, that is still a string. And nothing changes there. It is still a string. Fantastic. So one, we've already realized how to declare a string, how to find the type of a string to confirm that this is actually a data type of type string. Usually you can use type of. Type of will always tell you to which data type does that value belong to. So type of, it takes an argument, which is the variable. Now you pass that variable as the argument to that type of method. Then it will print for you the data type to which that variable belongs to. So after that, I want us to look at now what we call concatenation concat. Let me just call it concat. Yeah, so to concat, it's like I want to take one string, add to another. So let's say I have a string here. Let first name equals to Omolo. Then I have let last name. I need to follow the rules. Last name equals to Uganda. And then I come here and say, let full name equals to, now full name is my first name plus my last name to give me something like Omolo Uganda, right? So I can come here and say fname plus lname. And I can log that to the console. So let's say my full name is that, then I have what we call full name right there. So what do we have? We have Omolo Uganda. And this is not what we expect. We expect to have like Omolo a space and Uganda, right? So how do we fix that? We can have it this way, or we can also introduce what we call an empty space. Let me show you something here. I can have, before we go on, let's write down here, let space equals to space. That's a string, right? Now, if I try to print it somewhere, it will give me what we call that space. So right now, I want to have first name plus space plus Uganda. So if I come here and say full name equals to fname plus space plus last name. So then what do we have? We have my full name is Omolo space Uganda, right? That is one method. Someone else can just come here and say, instead of having all those three variables, I'll do away with the space so that we can only have two. They can decide to have this one here, a space right there. And since a space is a space and it's a string, we have that well formatting there. At the same time, someone can just have my full name is plus space plus full name. Then what do we have? My full name is Omolo Uganda. So you need to understand that an empty quotation mark and an quotation mark that has a space, those are all strings. So in this case, we've simply taken Omolo, added it to Uganda, also the space. It simply joins those strings. Another scenario is, let's look at another scenario that you might meet somewhere. Let's say maybe in my family, we have, like, let's say Uganda is our surname. So because I'm in the first descendant, maybe Uganda 1, right? So I can have that come down here and say, let level equals to 1. Someone has his or mic open, please unmute. Let me help you. Okay. That is it. So let's say my level in the family is 1. So I need a name like Omolo Uganda 1, right? So we want to see what happens when you now concatenate like a strings and like a number. Fname plus last name plus what we call level. You see what happens? My full name is Omolo Uganda 1. So in JavaScript, when you add a string, take a string and add a number to that string, the new value becomes a string. So it will treat now this one as a string. Fantastic. So the next thing that we want to do, I want us to check onto something. Like, let's see on how we can reverse a string. To reverse is like to say, if I have like something like, let's say JavaScript, then if I reverse it, what do I expect? I expect a TPI RCSA VAJ. It's basically like reversing, like what's coming to the end comes the first thing, right? And what was the first becomes the last. So usually at some point you can always treat strings in JavaScript as arrays. So let's say right here we have something we call, how do I call this? Let's say character. No, not character, but string. I hope that's not a keyword in JavaScript. Equals to, let's say TypeScript, yeah. And then I want to reverse this string. To reverse this string, there are a number of things that I need to do in order to reverse it. First thing, I need to split this string. After splitting, it will become an array. So let me show you how it goes. What do you do? Number one, you split. Number two, you want to reverse. And then number three, you want to join them back. So in this case, we can do something like, let's have a function that will do this in an easier way so that we can pass different values of our string and to see the outcome that we get. So let's say we need a function called function reverse, right? A function usually can accept an argument. Let me call it reverse string. A function can accept an argument, which in this case, it's going to accept what we call our string. Let me give it that way. And then we have the function block, where now we define what this function, the instructions that it needs to execute. So in this case, let's just return the value. We want to first return the value of string and then split it and then reverse it and then join it. So what I will do here, I will say, I will take the parameter here, string dot split. What am I splitting? I'm splitting string. Then after splitting that string, not really the string, how do I want to split it? Using what? Like empty quotes. Because suppose you have a string, you can have a string that, let's say it's hello or molo. So hello or molo has a space. For example, let's come here is a superset of JS. All of this is a string, right? Now, suppose I want to split this, I can split it using the spaces here, or I can just split it, everything here to be split. So if I want everything here to be split, I just use an empty opening quotes like that. Then after splitting, I want to do what? I want to reverse. Reverse, how do you write reverse? After reversing, I want to join them back. How do I want to join? Everything is empty. That's how I want to join it. So that is what we need to have. So before we even invoke this function, let me explain using pseudocode what happens. So if we have TypeScript is what we have here. Let's say this is our string, TypeScript. So if I split it, we will have what we call, let me just show you, we'll have let's call it array. Let string array equals to, we will have we will have y, we will have p. Basically, you see what happens? Everything here will be split into an array, okay? Then remember, an array has something called reverse, right? So it will reverse it. So in this case, okay, let me just copy this really quick. I want us to do pseudocode because I want you to understand than just seeing it work, okay? So let me just copy all this, type, Control C, Control V. Then let's just do the math really quick. Comma, we need a comma, we need a comma, we need a comma, we need a comma there, comma here. And then these are strings. So everything should just be in quotes, S quotes, quotes, yeah. So return string or split. First, we split it. When you split a string, you get an array containing the characters of that string. So we have TYPESCRIPT. Then reverse. Reverse is now a method for arrays. It will reverse this array. So what we will have is the opposite of this, of what we have here. What comes first will be last. What's last will be first. So we'll have something like this. It will be back to the default TypeScript. Control C. Let reversed array equals to, then we'll have that there. Like that, like that. This one is to help you understand what actually happens when we reverse that string. That way, that way, that way. And of course, all these here should be treated as characters each. So this is like an array of characters, okay? Fantastic. So this one is what we call, sorry, here we did what we call split. Coming down here, we've done what we call reverse. And then lastly, now we want to join. We are joining it. Every single character here is being joined. So we'll have what again? Now, when we join, let's join array equals to C. We'll get that right there. So that is what happens. So let's come here. Let's come down here and then have, let's now call this function. Let's say reverse string. Then now we pass as an argument a string that we want to reverse. So in this case, let's call it study jam. So our code has run and it's okay, but we can't see anything on the console. Why? Because this one just returns. It means we can use the value. So in other words, I can just console log what we get here. So copy this, cut, and then log that to the console. What do we have? Look at this. Now M was the last, it's not the first. A, J, Y, Y. We have D, U, and that's it. You see, everything here is now reversed. That's how you reverse a string. So the point here is one, first split. When you split a string in JavaScript, it becomes an array of each single character in that string. For example, when we split this one, we get TypeScript. Actually, this is split. This should come first. Split. Then here we have what we call reverse. So we need to have X, V, X, V, X, V. Exactly. So this is what we need to have. If this is the string, it's TypeScript. When we split it, we get an array of each character in that string. When we reverse, then it's simply the opposite. What was first comes last. What was last comes first. Okay. So in this case, we expect to have a T, then a P, then an I, a T, a P. Then we need an I. Then we need an R. We need an S. We need R. We need a C. We need an S. We need an E. We need what we call a P. We need a Y. And we need a T. So we split, reverse. In reverse, what was last comes first. What was first comes last. And then now if we join the array, we now remove all this, take it back to a new string, which will be now TPIRCSEPYT. That is what we need to get. And so if this is it, let's confirm with our function that we have here. Instead of supplying study jam, let's add TypeScript instead to validate what we have. Control C and paste it here, Control V. Exactly, we get TPIRCSEPYT, TPICSEPYT, and that is how you reverse a string. Okay, that is it. So you don't have to actually pass the actual value of the string here. You can refer to it using the variable name. For example, let's say we have, this is TypeScript now, TypeScript. Let's take it back to where it was. So I can still come here and just say, instead of the string, we have what we call joined array. And that will refer to the actual value that we have here. Now, let's do the same with now this kind of a long string. For example, TypeScript is a superset of JS. So let me come here and instead of passing joined array, I want to pass a string. So we can see how will this happen. Let's come here. How do we call this string? It's a string. So coming here, we simply replace this with a string. So let's see what happens. It's some very weird code that I can't even read these characters. So it basically splits everything. You see, even the spaces that we have here are treated as splits. Everything treated as splits. But that is because I told it split everything. Every character inside the code, split it. What if I want to split it using what we call the spaces? Let me do that. And then I want to join them back using the spaces. Right, what do we have? Let me comment out what we have here to make more sense in the console. Let me just comment out to make our console clean. Exactly. So coming here, you see what do we have? JS of superset A is TypeScript. TypeScript is a superset of JS. Look at that. Now in my function, I'm telling it split it using spaces, which means it will look for space and this one as the first element of the array, second element of the array, fourth, fifth, and sixth. So we have TypeScript space is a superset of JavaScript. And then join them back using spaces at the same time. So it joins them back to get JS of superset is TypeScript. Suppose you have something like JavaScript is hyphen I tell it using spaces. There's no thing, but I can tell it's using this hyphen here. So let's see what we have. We are back to the same thing. JS of superset. So I can now decide instead of joining them using what we call an asterisk. You see how it joins them. JS star of star. That's it. Star, star, star. Because that's what we used to join. So up to this point, do we have any question from anyone in related to the passing of an array? Anyone? Okay. So if there's no one, let's continue. So that is it. And then we can also look at how to get character at index of something. So let's say this is my array, my string, and I want to get the character at index, let's say 5. So let's char 5 equals to joined array dot character at index 5. And then I can just log this. I can log character of 5. And then what do we get? We get a C. Why? Because our indexing starts at 0. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that is a C. Fantastic. Let's move to trimming of spaces in strings. Trims. So if I have like let space string equals to space, 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 this is spaced. Then I have also space, space, space. So what trim does, trim simply removes the extra spaces coming in before and after the string. So if I say console log space string dot trim, what do we expect to get? We get this is spaced. You see, we have no spaces either way. But you can be more specific by telling it, I want you to only trim the first or the end, the start or the end. How do you do that? You can do that this way. That's log, then space string dot trim. Now you see what we have here. We have trim end, trim start. So I will trim start. So this will only remove what we have in the first spaces here, right? For example, let's you see what we have here. This is something that it is still there. It's printed, the space that we have here. Let me do something plus. Okay, I will do space. I want a way in which I want to confirm to you that we have no more spaces here. Or let me do the end to tell you why we'll still reserve the spaces here. So instead of trim start, let's do trim end. Log space string dot trim end. Yes, you see, it only trims the end spaces. The string spaces are still there. As you can see, what we have here, space, 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 this is spaced. So I've also talked about splitting of strings. I've talked about what we call detecting a string. The next thing we want to talk about is what we call substrings and using the splice. So if this is my string here, let's use what we have to demonstrate that. Let me just remove the consoles because we want to make our time on the screen as possible. So if I have joined array, then I can say const sliced array equals to joined array dot slice. Then I give it the starting index. Hello. Hi. Am I back?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, so sorry I lost you. Yeah, so now I was talking of the last thing about strings is how to replace a string. So if we have something like type is a superset of JS, TypeScript, then maybe I want to replace a superset to what we call a subset. So how do I do that? I can just say our string is let's say I'm using let new string.
Look, kindly Omolo, could you please share your screen? We can't see it.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. Is it visible now?
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. Yeah, so if I have something like string, TypeScript is a subset of JavaScript, and I want to replace the superset to subset, have something like string dot replace. Then it takes two arguments, what you want to replace and what you want to replace it with. So I want to replace superset replaced with what we call subset. And then let's now like log the string. So replace superset should be replaced with a subset. Why are we having the same thing being printed? Let me see. Let's log all of this. Log string or string. Let's have string here. We want to find out. Okay, now we have TypeScript is a subset of JavaScript, but you expect to have is a subset of JS. So let's see what we need to have. A minute. I want to log everything here. Control A. Exactly. So you see what we have? We have now TypeScript is a subset of JavaScript because we take superset and replace subset. That is how you replace. And then if we have a string, let's say we have so let's say log string dot repeat. What will we have? TypeScript times. So that is it for strings. Let's move to arrays. Yeah, so arrays, we want to focus on just an ordered collection of items. So I can have something like let pet equals dog, cat, and some of you even pet snakes. So this is simply an array, a collection of items. So what are some of the characteristics of arrays? Arrays can contain mixed characteristics. For example, I can say let array equals to dog. We can have 25. We can have true. There equals to array dot push a donkey. Then if I try to print array 2, console log array 2, that's array 1. Let's see, we get a 4. So a push, you should understand that push returns the new length of the array. That is why I mentioned arrays size are dynamic. So when I push something to it, the push method will always return the new size. So remember, we have dog, we have 20, we have true. 1, 2, that's the size. But the moment I push donkey, the size now becomes 4. And look at this. If I come here and say log array.length. What do we get? We get a 3, right? Now that was the initial size of the array. But because I've pushed a new element, donkey, the new array size becomes 4. So arrays have dynamic size. Now we have an array. So let's look at how we can access arrays. Accessing arrays. So arrays, we use them, access them using the index method. Arrays are indexed and they use what we call the indexing. So this is index 0, index 1, index 2. But the first element is dog. You get the difference. So if I want to get the item at index 2, how do I do that? Let dog, no cat, or snake, snake equals to pet at index 2. Then let me print snake. What do we get? It's a snake. So if I want to access maybe the first element, I will use index 0. Okay, so for accessing arrays, you use the indexing method to get arrays. For example, index 1, at index 2, at index 3. So let's talk about this method I used here, array.length. So array can be so big, but you want to find its length. We could have something like coming here, we have 2, we have 4, we have 5. Now, if I want to find the length of this array, I use array.length. This will give me like the size of that array or the number of elements inside that array. So I can simply do this, find the length of pet.length. Let's do a pet. So let me console log, this is done, this is done. So what do we get? Array.length gives us 6 because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's see on how to push the push method. The push method, what it does, it adds an element to the end of an array, okay? So what it does, it will take donkey and append it here. So we'll have what we call a donkey right here. A donkey. So suppose I say I want to push, let's say a cow. And let's try logging this on our console. I'll take Control X, then just log that on our console. What do we get? 5, because the push returns the new size, which is now 1, 2, 3, 4 plus cow, which is 5. Then let's talk about pop. Pop is used to remove an element, and what it does, it removes the last element. So suppose we have, let's use a pet. I want to print the value, log pets in my console. So let me just console that. So I want to log pets. Log pets. What do we have in the console? We have dog, cat, snake, 2, 4, 5. Then at the same time, I want to like log pets with the pop method. Pet.pop. Pet.pop, it returns what has been removed. What has been removed is what? Is 5. And therefore, that is the last element, which is 5. And that is what will be printed here. Then we have something else that we call shift. Shift, what does it do? It removes the first element and returns the removed element from that array. We're still using the pet array. So let's just log pet.shift. Let's see. It removes dog because dog is the first element in our array, and then it returns that element. Shift is used to add elements to the beginning of an array. So instead of removing, we are going to add. So let's come down here. Let's log pet.unshift, and then a new pet that we have, a squirrel. We have a squirrel, right? So let's see what we get. Console.log pet and shift, and then we do a squirrel, and let's try and do a log of pets once more. You see what we have? Now let's evaluate. We have a dog, cat, snakes. When we log the pet, we should first expect everything right there. Correct. When we pop, we remove a 5. and the pop returns that value that's been removed, which is 5. If I here, and so we'll be having log cat next 2 and 4. When we come to shift does what? It removes the first element. So in other words, right? And then when we come to unshift, it adds an element to the beginning of an array, squirrel. So we expect to have squirrel, cat, snakes to 4. What do we have here? Squirrel, cat, snakes to 4, because we have popped, we have shift, and shifted again. That is what we have. And then we can also do a reverse of an array. So let's say we want to get the reverse of array. So same thing with the pet, log pet dot reverse. What do we get? Whatever comes first goes last. Whatever comes last goes first. So since we're having a 4, 2, 4 will come first, 2, snakes, cat, and squirrel. That's reverse, simple. And remember, we used this back in the strings to reverse a string. When we split a string, it becomes an array. That is why we were able to apply a reverse method on string, because it's now an array. Moving forward, I want us to now check on how we can use the spread operator with the strings. Okay, now spread operator. Spread operator. Here is some of the concepts you're using in your Java Express, React. You'll meet spread somewhere. You'll have to use it. So let's say we have something like a string equals to, then we have A, we have B, we have C, we have D. And then I want to do what? I want to log this array string. So let's look what we have. Log array string. What do we get? We get the A, B, C, D. Okay. Now, what is the major use of spread operators? Let's use it with an example. I'll comment out the logs to make the console clean. At the same time, I want to come here and do something else. Just log the spread noted by I'm spreading the array string. Let's see what we get. We get A, B, C, D. Then if we use the spread operator, it's like it gets unwrapped out of the array. Now, one of the use cases of the spread operator with arrays, we can use spread operator to clone an array. Okay, so suppose I can and then I say let array2 equals to the spread of what? Of array1. I'll come this way and just say what I'm doing here, I'm spreading array1. Array1, right? Then I want to append an item to that array. Which array? Array1. So let's do that. Sorry, a minute. So how do we append? We append using a push. So let's say I take array1 dot push 6. And then I want to console log array1. 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 We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then let's also console log array2. Array2. Let's see the difference. Now our original array is array1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then array2 is basically a clone of array1, all right? Which means we're just talking like a shallow copy of the first array. Now I'm coming back or append a value of 6 to array1, which means I expect array1 to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that is what I have here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But remember, array2 is a clone of array1. What it happens, it's 4, 5. I hope that makes sense, right? Fantastic. So a clone will return So basically, the structuring is what it does. It's used to assign array values to distinct variables. Okay. So a good example. Let's call this the structuring of arrays. Assume I have something like const items equals to, we have books, we have what we call pencils. I do like pencils. I don't remember. Then we have maybe pens, and then we have lastly maybe a set. Great. Now I want values to distinct variables. Okay. Remember now we have books, pencils, pens, set. Now I can here say const. How many elements do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4. So I can L Y Z and maybe T equals to items. Okay. So what happens here? Y assigned to pencils, Z will be assigned to pens, and T will be assigned to set. Okay. So can we confirm that? Let's confirm that by doing the logs. Control X, the log of X, I mean, what do we get? Books. If we do a log of Y, what do we get? If we do a log of Z, if we do a log of T, what do we get? We get a set. That is how you can assign specific values of an array to specific variable. Time you can still structure this using the spread operator. How can we do that? Let's say the structure using spread operator. How does that happen? So let's say we have const items, books, pencils, pens, set. We're going to use the same array that we have there. We call what we call the spread operator. I will have something like let const X, then the rest of it I want to spread them. I'll call them maybe Y equals to what we call items. So from here, let me comment that out. Who can tell me what is the log of X and what is the log of Y? Anyone? Just type it on the charts. The log of X and the log of Y. Anyone on the charts? We have something like this, X, Y. So I'm finding the log of X and the log of Y. Let's see what we get. Just type your answer and send. I want to see what we get. To finish typing. Anyone else who wants to give it a try? Okay. Let me show you what happens. So what happens here? X will be assigned to the first element, which is books. Then all of this will be spread to and assigned. We get books. The log of Y. What do we get? Pencils, pens, and sets. The rest of it, pencils, pens, and sets. I'm not sure if anyone got it. Nobody had any answer. So let's continue. That is how you can use the spread operator to structure what we call an array. But you should be very careful. The spread operator should come as the last thing. You should never have it as the first thing, right? If you do that, you will get an error. That is what to expect. Real quick, let's. Now, objects are simply used to handle something like real world data. and they are of reference type. And also objects don't have what we call indexing. And objects store their values in key value pairs. For example, we can have let person equals to, and we use curly braces to so I can have key 1, the value is 1. I can have key 2, the value is 2. I can have, what else can I have? Let's say key 3, the value is 3. Right, so you see an object, it takes like a value, a key and a value, a key and a value. That is how you can declare an object. And let's use it, for example, in a real world scenario. So I will say, let's a techie. Let's use a techie now. What's the name of age? Is 17. Huh? Yeah, let's go like the course that Leslie's taking, CS. So the age, the name, and the course. So it's like object simply like describing who this techie is. From this, you can get the name, the first name, the age, and the course, right? So the question is, how do I now, for example, access the course I'm taking? Now here we use what we have two things here. We have dot notation, then we have objects, fantastic. So I want nickname to be AS priest, something like that. So state key, which is the object, and then the key, which is the first name. Using the bracket notation, I can do this, and then they should not a dot. Now we remove the dot. Now we get
Kwani swali ni?
okay, guys. Sorry, I'm back. Please, I'm back. It's a network issue that is disturbing me. So let's continue. Please confirm if you can see my screen. Please confirm if you can hear me. You can see my screen. Okay, thank you. So let's wind up. Sorry, guys. What's happening, man? Okay, I'm still visible. Thank you. So let's continue. So with a bracket notation, we can still get nickname to be JS Priest. But if I was to use what we call the dot notation, that won't give me anything. In fact, dot nickname, let's just say nickname. Why? Because JavaScript will not treat strings with space as a key. So in that case, this is what we call bracket notation, because right. So another way, another thing that one would look at is add, for example, a new key value pair to what we call an object. So let's say we have nickname, we have the course, the age, and then we have the semester. So I can say key dot semester equals to 4. So like you are in the first semester. So if I come down here and also just log take once again, what can we get? Now semester has been added. First name, age, course, nickname, and semester. And then what else can we talk about? We've talked about accessing them. We've talked about how to append. Basically, that is what we have for today. Yeah, so out of that point, please, any question? Any question at that point or any comment? Yeah, and what we've discussed, these are just like, okay, Precious.
Okay, my question was, I was trying to think of an industrial case study of where we can apply some of the concepts. Like, for example,
Okay.
yeah, like maybe you can take us through that so that we know how it's being applied.
Okay, let me take you through how this is being applied. So I'll use a good example. Let me see if I have something on the website to show you a real example of that, or that will be applied to you. Fantastic. Let me just see if I can get that. Meaning I'm typing something here. Let's have Google. Then JSON placeholder. Fake API. And then under this, I want to maybe, let's come down here. I want to look at all the comments. Let's see if that will load. Great. So look at this. We have, you usually build APIs. Of course, I'm happy because we have a number of people who have worked with APIs or backends. Data that is returned to you when you make a request will always be in an object notation, what we call JSON format. So JSON is what we call JavaScript object notation. But there could be more than one object. Look at here. We have one, it's an object, another object, another object. Objects are in what we call arrays. So this is like elements of the array. Each object is an array. And each object has a value. We have ID is one. ID is one. Name is blah, blah, blah. That's wonderful. So tell me, if you are on a React app, just do a quick one here. I'll copy the first three. Control C. Then I want to come here, down here. Okay, so we did a lot of work today. Let me see. Const response equals to, let me close that. So this is what to, let me zoom out. Exactly. So in fact, yeah, this is what I want. So look at this. Here we have an array. Inside the array, we have object, right? So suppose I have a JavaScript, a React framework. Remember, in React, we have something like, we'll have like a return, something like ASX, right? And then I'm like ID. I'll have something like a state, data, sets, data, and things. Then I'll be like, I'll come here and I say like, use a map, right? So I'll take like data dot map. Then I'm mapping each item to a div. That's a really quick, something like that. And inside this div, this is not JavaScript perfect work. I mean, this is just a demo to show you what you expect in a real industry. Here, I'm mapping the old each item in this array to this div, which means in real sense, in the browser, we have 3 types of divs. Divs mean one will contain, it will iterate over, iterate. It's like saying for array of response. Now, each of them map for each. Now, this statement, I want to say, the first element, item dot. I come down here, I want to pass the name. Name will be item dot name. Now you see here, first of all, we use arrays and objects. The array we've mapped it into div. So it means for every element array we have here, we'll have that exact number of divs. And for each array, for each element in the array is an object. And for each object, I want to like display, I only want to display the ID and the name. So we tell it item, which is the current iteration, then access the ID, print it there. Then also in the same item, access the name and print it there. So you see, like this is how you're going to apply and arrays in industry cases. Leslie, does that answer your question?
Yes, it has. Thank you.
Okay. Any other question, please? Any other question? Okay. A comment? Even if today was too fast, I need to give you time to continue. Yeah, you can tell us so that next time we do a 4-hour session. Any comment? Okay, maybe no comments. I'll give my fellow ambassadors, maybe they just tell or two. So, then please tell us something we leave, and then maybe you can call it a day.
Okay, from my end, I don't have much to share. Share since we've had a topic that it has been beginner friendly. We've learned a lot, and I hope to see more sessions and more members also being there to contribute, being there to share what they think, because I saw whereby also you was sharing for attendees to be able to share their thoughts on what could be the logs or the applications. So the session has been very, very informative, and I would also encourage more and more of us to keep on joining. So I hope to join in the next session. This was a great one.
Thank you so much, Brian, and we feel appreciated for you joining us today. Yeah, so thank you all for coming. Remember, Saturday we are going to have classes, functions, asynchronous operations, what we call. Then the other week we go into land, React, Vue, Express. So thank you guys for coming. See you on Saturday. Bye. Thank you. And for the rest of you, guys. yeah, you can leave at your own pleasure.